For 2 months, starting December 14th, we're going to remove the GST, HST from groceries. 100% of groceries, all groceries. We're going to remove the GST from restaurant meals, takeouts, fast food. Removing the GST from beer and wine. Removing the GST for essentials like kids' clothing, footwear, diapers, and toys. All tax-free. Removing the GST and HST.
The CBC's Karina Roman is on the story and joins us live in Ottawa. So Karina, take us through the nuts and bolts of this plan.
Well, you heard some of it there, obviously, but yeah, in terms of the news, you can use what people can expect if and when this does become passed. We're talking about the removal of the GST and the HST on prepared foods, restaurant meals, groceries. Now, some groceries are already exempt, you know, fresh foods and that kind of stuff. So this is sort of more about snacks and prepared foods like the rotisserie chicken when you enter a grocery store. Sometimes there for you just to take home. But also for restaurants that you go to eat or take out from. Beer, wine, cider, and pre-mixed alcohol beverages, but those in terms of only below the 7% alcohol. Children's clothing, footwear, car seats, diapers, children's toys, certain types of toys, not all toys, books, print newspapers, and puzzles. Also Christmas trees. If you want to wait to get your Christmas tree until December 14th, because that is when they're talking about this going into effect, from December 14th to February 15th. So that would be the pause on the GST, HST, and they have sort of an estimate in terms of if you were to spend $2,000 on these kinds of qualifying goods, you would see a savings of, depending on what province you live in, between $100 or even up to $200, depending on what province you live in. So because of the GST and the HST combinations. So that is the nuts and bolts of that. Then there is this check that would go out to all Canadians who make less than $150,000 a year who worked in 2023. And that would go out in the spring. So that's not an immediate check that people are going to see. This is along the lines of other promises of checks we've seen from provincial governments. And Justin Trudeau was asked, though, how they came to the 150,000 threshold that some people would perceive a person to make that kind of income as doing okay and perhaps not in need of the help. Here's what he had to say in response.
I will highlight that costs have gone up for everyone, and even someone making $130,000, $140,000 a year is cutting back on restaurants, is thinking twice about what groceries they can buy, is being thoughtful about the price pressures on us all. So we see middle-class Canadians, and we're going to be there to help them out as well. This is a choice we're making that is delivering for Canadians at a time where, yes, our economy is turning the corner, but people are still facing that squeeze. This will help us get through it.
Now, Chrystia Freeland, the finance minister, was also there at the announcement, and she talked about sort of, I guess, a secondary benefit. You said this is definitely how they're framing it, is an affordability measure, but this is also about possibly stimulating the economy. Obviously, you know, there's concerns that this could overstimulate an economy. That's why the Liberal government says they didn't do this kind of check give out or even the relief of the GST previously when inflation was high, but inflation is within target. So she says this is okay to do at this time. That's how they're rationalizing it. But the second benefit is that it can stimulate the economy a little bit and get people spending, especially at a time when they're still feeling the squeeze. And so when she talked about spending, she said that the economy on that side, the consumer spending side, is still quite fragile. And if we want to continue to have a soft landing and not dip into recession, this could help with that as well.
And Karina, we heard from the Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador, Andrew Furey, saying that we will be removing the HST from many goods and services for 2 months. saying he was pleased to work with Minister Freeland and Minister LeBlanc on the measure to help with the cost of living. So I think we're going to I'm trying to figure out exactly the nuts and bolts of all of that in terms of how much that would be. I guess it depends on the province, depends on whether the federal portion of the sales tax is harmonized with the provincial portion and all of that. So that's something to wrap my head around. We've already heard now from the opposition leader and from the leader of the NDP. How are they responding?
Well, interestingly, or maybe not surprisingly, Pierre Poilievre not jumping on the bandwagon and saying what a great idea, because he says that this is a desperate measure by a desperate prime minister. And there is politics in this. This is obviously not just about the finances and the economy. There is a political motive to these kinds of things as well. So Pierre Poilievre not impressed by this move. Have a listen to what he had to say.
And today what we have is a 2-month temporary tax trick that will not make up for the permanent quadrupling carbon tax on heat, housing, food, and fuel, and all to save Justin's job and Jagmeet's pension.
Now, what he means by that is accusing the NDP of supporting the Liberals for personal reasons. And the NDP in this case says they will support this measure, so much so that they're willing to help end the logjam that's currently in the House of Commons over this privilege motion that's just been filibustered for weeks now, for a day in order to get this passed. And so that is something that he said that's how they're going to do it. That's how they're willing to support it. It's not a get-out-free card for the Liberals on the privilege motion, just for this piece of legislation whenever it comes down in the next little while. But also saying that this is, something he supports, but it's a definitely watered-down version of what they would have liked to have seen brought in. Have a listen to what he says.
We believe that we need to take the GST off of daily essentials. Let's give working class folks a bit of relief, a little break. And so we wanted to see the GST removed from things like your cell phone bill, your internet bill, your home heating bill, from your daily necessities, like going to a grab-and-go grocery store, grab-and-go items at the grocery store, or your essentials when it comes to kids, clothing, diapers. And we fought for this. We said this is important, and the Liberals informed us that they had caved to our demands. But they included a Liberal letdown. This is temporary, and it doesn't include the monthly bills.
But he said that does not prevent them from supporting it. They say they're not giving the Liberals, they're not letting the Liberals off the hook, but they do recognize that people need supports and help at this time, and so they're willing to support it. He did say on the cheque issue, he's also going to support that, although that wouldn't be the way that they would have gone about it if they had designed this measure.
Karina, thank you. The CBC's Karina Roman live in Ottawa.